Welcome to the 13th entry in the video series on Chinese martial arts poetry. So in this video we're going to be going over Xingyiquan techniques, and we're going to be going over Beng Quan. So Beng Quan, or crushing fist, is the movement we're going to be going over. It's this one, where it's essentially a straight punch. Now the poetry we're going to be going over is not Beng Quan, but is more about the associated element or the associated phase. So in Xingyiquan, there is the 5 phases, the wuxing, also known as 5 elements, but more properly translated as 5 phases or 5 changes. So in the associated element or associated phase for this movement is called wood. So the idea of wood and how it's meant to portray the movement is very much based on the element. So each element has essentially a way to shape the force or how to use the body to create force. So in Beng Quan's case, of wood's case, it's in the observation of wood and trees. So trees, we can see them growing up throughout their lifetime, of course, not in just one day, of course. But what we might not immediately see is that they also grow down. We all know that they have roots that grow very deep. So how this relates to the movement is that power must not only go in one direction, but 2. So for everything that goes forward must go backwards. So growing in 2 directions is the shape of the force. So in this movement, the force obviously goes forward, right? However, we must think about the downwards to create that. So the roots in this case are my feet, while the branches are my arms. There's a popular saying in Chinese martial arts, so the hand and foot must arrive together. This relates to that phrase. So when I go to punch, I don't want to punch and then finish with my foot, nor do I want to finish my foot and then punch. I want it to be same time, and then the other, same time, right? No matter which way you flavor it, it must be same time. Why is this? The idea is basically that when your foot hits the ground, power hits the ground, that power comes back up, right? The way kinetic energy works, it hits into something, and if that something doesn't go anywhere, it will reverberate back up through you. Since I can't push the earth down every time I stomp, that force will come back up. So in my body weight hitting the ground, that force will reverberate back up through my body, and it will try to leave somewhere, because otherwise it's just going to jiggle throughout my body. So here, that force is going to enter the opponent through Beng Quan. The idea is that the power will hit the ground, reverberate back up, and then try to leave. I'll let it leave through my fist into my target. And when there's a target, right, so say there's my opponent, I hit him, but let's say like I meet a strong structure, right? That kinetic energy will go through the structure and then try to leave, right? So if I say hit him and then he blocks, but the force is still strong, and I meet upon a solid structure, that force will go through the structure and try to find somewhere to escape. If it can't, it'll hit the ground and then reverberate back up, and then it'll kind of go back and forth a bit as the kinetic energy tries to stop. But if there's any kind of flaw, then upon hitting the opponent, the kinetic energy will escape through that flaw. So say the person's arm is very stiff or the shoulders raised as they go to block, then the force leaves there. It will either collapse their arm or will cause them to bounce back. And if I hit them solidly without them blocking, right, that's another type of entry, right? Because every stance has weaknesses. No matter where you put your hands, there's always weaknesses in your guard. Same thing with structure. So in this case, I might hit him and then he might block me, but that kinetic energy will be reverberating back up through his structure until it finds somewhere to escape. Or I hit him, so I hit him where his structure is physically weak. So then I don't need to worry about the kinetic energy escaping somewhere, because I've already hit him where he's weak, essentially tearing it in 2. So the crushing fist of Beng Quan must have force going back and forth. The hand and foot must arrive together. So that is Beng Quan, the wood element, or the wood phase from Xingyiquan.